design. I am also a research scholar. I am on the last stage of my PhD. I'm working on the narratives from the 7 Chola temples. I hopefully planning to submit my work. My work on research papers on the sacred storyscape, modes of narrative strategy in the Muchukunda mural. This is the most celebrated murals from the Thiruvarur and Chidambaram temple in Tamil Nadu. The research critically looks into the narrative strategies in the 17th century mural in Thiruvarur temple. It explores how artists have used visual narrative strategies to create layered and immersive narrative experience. This highlights the contribution to the evolution of visual narrative storytelling in southern India. The paper focuses only on, there are 3 narratives in the temple. The 4th page of paper focuses only on the narrative of the Muchukunda. The investigation does not extend to the techniques involved in creating the mural or comparison between the visual and the textual variation of the story. These lies beyond the scope of my paper. A lot of research has happened in documenting these murals across southern India. A lot of scholars have worked on looking into the textual and the visual representation of the murals, also looking at the material culture. But very little work has been done in terms of systematic study of visual narrative strategies, through where stories are visually structured, sequenced, and communicated in a visual form. A little introduction about what visual narratives are. Visual narratives are basically images which are arranged in kind of in a logical sequence to tell a story. That's the way we have comic strips which tell a story in a certain way. Visual narratives, actually the images are arranged in, whether it is an image or a sculpture which tells a story, which are arranged in a logical way. And just the way sentences have structured rules, that is grammar, visual stories also have an underlying structure which we call it as the visual narrative grammar. Visual narrative grammar helps in understanding how images are read as stories, how sequences and placements affect the interpretation. Within the visual narrative, we also have another component called the visual narrative mode. Various visual narrative modes like the linear, you have the continuous, you have the synoptic, you have conflicted, structural. These are the strategies used by the artist to organize even time and space within visual form. A little about the Thiagaraja Swami temple. Thiagaraja Swami temple is located in Thiruvarur district in Tamil Nadu. The granite structure belongs to the Aditya Chola I, and later on all the additions were done by Rajaraja Chola I and Rajendra Chola, including Kulothunga Chola. It has 2 shrines, one dedicated to Valmiki Nagar, the other is the celebrated Thiagaraja Swami temple. Within the temple premises lies the Devasiriya Mandapa, which houses the famous Muchukunda murals. Deva means the celestial being, and whereas the Siriya means the auspicious or the splendor, so it is the house of splendor, and it's also Devasiriya is also name of one of the Nayanars, the Shaiva Nayanars. So this is the mandapas are built where the Devaram is sung here. In this mandapa, there are 3 narratives. The one is the foundational myth, that is the story of the Valmiki Nagar. The other one is the story of the Manunini Chola, who kills his son to get justice to the cow. And the third narrative is the Tyagaraja and the Muchukunda mural. As I said earlier, my paper focuses only on the Muchukunda narrative. Something about the myth about Tyagaraja and Muchukunda. Very interestingly, the myth about the Muchukunda, the monkey-faced king, the Langur was blessed by Shiva to born as a king. You can find this reference in the Bhagavad Purana. But interestingly, in Thiruvarur mythology, or we call it as the Sthala Purana, it is beautifully merged with the Tyagaraja cult. That's a very, very interesting twist, which is not something which is uncommon when we talk about the narratives in southern India, because even in the Tirupurantaka mythology in the Brahadishwara temple, the story has been beautifully manipulated to suit the Chola theme, by bringing Buddha into the whole narratives. Here, the Muchukunda king has been married to the Thiruvarur cult. This basically talks about the arrival of Tyagaraja idol, that is the Somaskanda idol, from Shiva to Vishnu, and from Vishnu to Indra, and from Indra to Muchukunda, and finally who brings it to Thiruvarur. So there are total 6, 1 plus 6 that is the main idol, that is which he gets, and plus he's also gifted with another 6 which are installed around different parts of southern India. I have analyzed the narrative panel in the Muchukunda story. Usually these panels form something called as registers, just the way you have comic strip which has storyboarding. Here you also have something called, we call it as a register, where registers are divided into frames where they tell a story, every event comes. One interesting aspect about this Devasriya Mandapam is the entire bay has been converted been used as a register instead of dividing the bay into different registers. Probably because one of the reasons it also gives the artist a larger space to work with, giving more details to the entire narrative, and also being Tyagaraja being a very, very important cult in the Thiruvarur temple, probably that is the reason it has been given a bigger space. The other two narratives, which are the story of the Manunidi Chora and the Valmikinada, they are painted on the back wall of the mandapa. Total there are 64 panels in the narrative. I have analyzed all the 64 panels in my paper. For this presentation I have taken just 4 panels. This is what I meant by register. This is, you have a one strip, like a comic strip you get, and you have single frames which actually event is depicted inside the frame. That's called a frame, or even sometimes it is referred to as a cell. This is the layout of the Muchukunda narrative, the ceiling of the Devasriya Mandapa, where if you see, if you go back here, it is not divided in the register. The entire bay has been used as a register, where it gives the artist a larger space to work with the design. This is the story of the Manunadi Chora and the Valmikinada, which is on the back wall of the mandapa. If you see, they are again divided into smaller as compared to the Tyagaraja myth. This one is in a smaller space on the wall. While analyzing all the 64 panels, I just realized that these were not, the artist did not use any particular, just restricted himself to one particular strategy. A series of various strategies were used by designing this mural. We talk about complex narratives in terms of, we take the inspiration from the Western scholars who have worked with the Western comic strips and all. When you study this, this is one of the most complex way of giving a narration, and we didn't have those theories. We may not have a documented one, but these are theories where different modes have been used as per the event, as per the action. The artist has switched to it. So you have a linear mode, continuous, linear, structural, nested. Sometimes you come across various modes clubbed together to depict an event. So these are basically, the artist wants to show the emotional tone and thematic significance that has been used. To give you a little more definition about the linear mode is nothing but just as a comic strip, the story moves from one scene to the other, that's as simple as that. Whereas the continuous mode, when you see the narrative moves without there is a break in the register, it just continuously moves, there is no framing. One example I can give you is when people have been to Ajanta caves, you can see that is one of the continuous, and also a lot of narratives from Sanchi. All those places have visual narratives which are in a continuous mode, there is no break in the frame. Then there is something, this is also a period where the artist was switching from a continuous to a linear mode without completely giving up some qualities of continuous mode. So you will see instead of dividing the frame into very rigid structures, they would use architectural elements like pillars, or they would use natural elements like trees were used to divide the frame, and you can just see it looks like one continuous, but actually they are divided into various frames. And there is something also called as the structural mode. The structural mode, I want to mention here, some of these theories are developed by me for my research, which I have used two of them here. Something called the structural narrative. Structural narratives are when a story appears in a linear format, where architectural elements have been used to depict smaller scenes within those elements. And then you have something called as nested mode, where nested mode is one linear mode which goes, and all the smaller components start happening within that. In this story, two battles take place. Before the Tyagaraja idol comes to earth, two battles takes place. The first battle is the demon called Varkali, between Indra and Varkali. This is where Indra seeks the help of Vishnu, who comes and helps him, and they have a fight. And here, if you notice, it is one continuous movement. There is no break in the frame, and you will see Tamil inscriptions coming at the bottom, which it guides the user to tell him what is the scene about, who are the characters involved in this. And you have used a continuous mode here. And if you notice here, again you can see in the continuous mode, the characters are repeated multiple times. When the user is viewing the narrative, he's a bit confused when the character comes multiple times in one register. Here if you see, the first scene is the Varkali and Indra's battle. Then you can see Indra getting defeated and he retreats to the battlefield here. So here, the main thing is the artist brings, because he wanted to bring the rhythm in the scene. This is a very typical mode which is quite often used in the battle scene. There is a similar scene which happens in Venugopal Parthasarathy temple in Chengam, where the battle between Rama and Ravana is shown in one continuous form without any break. You can see multiple repetition of those characters. So this is usually they use in this kind of battle scene to create a rhythm in the entire narrative. So the other one is linear method. Here, if you see, this is after the war when Indra takes Vishnu gives him the idol and he installs in his altar as celestial. Here, if you see, it is a very linear way, where the first frame Indra installs the idol. The second scene you can see him worshipping in his, though it is badly damaged. You can see worshipping in a celestial altar. It is one without any episodes overlapping, any character overlapping. It is just one linear flow. And then you have another, after the battle, second battle. This is a battle with an asur called Vallasu. When here he takes Indra takes the help of Muchukunda. This is where they show the arrival of Muchukunda into the narrative. You see, after the war, Muchukunda is invited into Indra's celestial abode at Amravati. You see future. The narrative moves from right to left. You can see the journey into heaven, where he is greeted by the celestial ladies. Then he is greeted by Indra's mother Aditi, and on the top you can see Indra garlanding with the Parijata flower. Here, the artist uses a combination of nested mode along with an element of structural mode here, where multiple events within a single composition enhancing the narrative density here. If you see, while the architectural mode is secondary mode, scenes are framed within a smaller mandapas or chambers with temporal continuity without fragmenting the panel into multiple frames, rather than dividing the register into multiple registers, creating a little confusion. He has gone for a temporal continuity here. The eyes move back and forth between the central action of the embedded subscenes. It allows the viewer in an interpretive process and creating an immersive experience. Now the last panel here is continuing to the same register, where what happens, the other scene in arrival of Tyagaraja to earth. Here Muchukunda, there are various scenes where he dreams of the Tyagaraja, and finally the idol is handed over to him. Here the artist uses, the importance is given to the structural narrative with elements of nested narrative here, nested narrative mode. If you see a structural mode, it's smaller narrative episode within a larger scene, which you could have acquiring the Tyagaraja idol from Indra. The main organizing principle is the spatial hierarchy and architectural arrangements. To conclude with this, I'm going to say that the artists when painting this have used very skillfully used the visual narrative grammar and narrative modes in this in a very remarkable skill, and it kind of creates a visual decoding and temporal navigation for the audience. The beauty transforms the performative and immersive experience where visual strategies, narrative modes together are constructed. Come together for constructing space, time, and meaning to the narrative. Thank you. I would like to conclude with one statement here. In India, art, politics, mythology, religion go hand in hand. So I think this narrative is a very, very good example. When you paint here, it's a very good example of when you say, oh, these are interlinked. Thank you.